So we are still talking about female fitness myths this month, and today's myth is that only trainers that are going to specialise in pregnancy or postnatal populations need pelvic floor education. And relevant to this, while we're talking about it, only pregnant and postnatal populations need pelvic floor training. Or have pelvic floor dysfunctions. And it's just so wildly inaccurate, this misconception, that I had to address it sort of head on. So the biggest population that is going to live with or develop stress urinary incontinence, which is the most common kind of pelvic floor dysfunction, is elite athletes, specifically in CrossFit, trampolining, volleyball, gymnastics, strength athletes, and track field athletes. Those populations are double or even triple as likely as general populations to develop pelvic floor dysfunction, stress urinary incontinence specifically, okay? Elite athletes are the largest population experiencing this, with the exception of maybe late pregnancy. Now, I understand most of our clients are not necessarily athletes in the sense that they're training for several hours a day. However, they are participating in many of these movements and activities, and often they're doing these things with trainers that have no idea of the impact of these activities on their pelvic floors or their female clients' pelvises. So part two, only pregnant and postnatal populations have pelvic floor dysfunctions. They're actually on par with athletic clients. So pregnant women experience stress urinary incontinence at 52%. Compare that with track and field athletes at 51%. Compare that with trampolinists at 80%. Compare that with volleyballers, 75.6%. Elite CrossFit athletes, greater than 80%. Okay, so, you know, pregnancy, yeah, on par with athletic populations, but the more elite and high impact, high load sports actually have a greater load on the pelvic floor and on rates of stress urinary incontinence. Postnatal women are only experiencing this at a rate of 26%, which is sort of on par with general populations. And postmenopausal women experience SUI at 63%. So again, on par, but by and large, the biggest population with pelvic floor dysfunction are still our high impact sports people. So the truth is, if you train women, in general population, so men and women, the rates are 30%, and in women alone, the rates are 40%. So the truth is, if you train women at all, generally fit, strong, healthy women who have no complaints in their sessions, the odds are one in three at a minimum, whether they've had kids or not, will experience SUI. In fact, you know, I know of a 13-year-old BJJ athlete who is experiencing it right now that I'm working with, okay, 13 years old. So the rates will increase if your client is athlete and pregnant, athlete and postmenopausal, okay? So with that in mind, all trainers really need to start understanding the female pelvis. It's not just for people who are going to specialise in pregnant and postnatal populations. In fact, it's more of an issue, and you need to be better versed in pelvic dysfunction if you're training high-level elite athletes. And the harder and higher impact and the heavier your training and coaching is, the better understanding you need to have of the female pelvis. So no, getting educated in pelvic health for women is not just for those who are specialising in pre and postnatal populations. Any coach that has a woman competing, heavy lifting, jumping, or just postmenopausal are especially obligated to get across pelvic floor, pelvic health issues. Any questions? Feel free to message me. I will see you next week.